Good morning. Well, as you heard today, I'm the pinch hitter, which I don't mind being. Excuse me. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world, so high, like a diamond in the sky. That was the first stanza of a poem entitled The Star, written by Anne and Jane Taylor in 1806. My reading of that poem is not intended to be farcical, but really quite serious. I chose it because I thought it reflects humankind's age-old fascination and curiosity about the cosmos and what we sometimes refer to as the heavens. For thousands of years, we have used the stars and the observable planets to try to predict and understand events here on Earth, even the coming of Jesus Christ. We have created horoscopes to predict human behaviors and personalities. Up there, somewhere, is the place we call heaven and the homes of the angels and the gods. Down there, somewhere, is hell, the residence of the devil himself, or herself. A lot to say about that. We climb mountains in an attempt, so it seems, to depart this mortal earth, to get closer to the stars. We wish upon the stars to make our dreams come true. In 1806, when that poem was written, scientists had pretty much accepted that the earth revolved around the sun. But space was so full of unknowns, we thought it was empty. Boy, was that wrong. We knew the sun was a star, like so many others, and there were many stars in the universe, but the debate had not yet concluded whether the universe was infinite and how many stars occupied the heavens. Today, it's thrilling, at least to me, to think about the tremendous strides we have made in space exploration, even in the last few years, since the last time I spoke, actually. There is so much excitement in the astronomical and cosmological community regarding the discoveries of the NASA former Kepler mission, which ended up getting broke and dying, and the current K2 missions. Thousands of terrestrial planets, terra firma, as opposed to gas giants or ice giants, have been documented that might be able to support some form of life. This is due to the likely presence of water and a temperature considered to be within the habitable range. Goldilocks planets, they're called, because they are just right for human or other living habitation. The NASA K2 mission is opening up more possibilities daily. The Hubble Space Telescope is still out there, along with a dozen or so other orbiting telescopes, some orbiting Earth, some orbiting the sun, scanning the universe for more information to help us understand the origin of suns and planets. The launching of the James Webb telescope in October 2018, and I'm hoping I'm here to see it and what it does. It's going to be great. With its even larger mirrors and greater sensitivities, will open up even more doors to the universe. So the phenomenon that causes stars to appear to twinkle is the same phenomenon that requires us to do our searching from space rather than here on Earth, rather than on mountaintops. We need to get past the blanket of atmosphere that randomly distorts and dulls light rays from the sun, from the stars. There is no twinkling in space. Why are we so intent, do you think, on finding some form of life or a habitable planet? What is the lure? And what do we hope we will learn? I have my own theory, as I always do have a theory. I think that we, knowingly or otherwise, this is what I think we're searching for God, for redemption, for a savior, or at least a life form older, wiser, and kinder than us, or a startling new revelation that answers some basic questions about what and why we are, about whether there is a God out there or not. I think we're getting closer to that. It may lie in the realm of quantum mechanics and the related idea of universal consciousness. Maybe that's what God is, a universal or collective consciousness of which our individual consciousness is part. That our brains have been imbued with this collective consciousness. Personally, this atheist likes that idea, strangely enough. Intentionality, self-awareness, but immaterialness. In other words, spirituality, or what Albert Einstein might have called spookiness. He did use that phrase. According to Richard Conn Henry, professor of physics and astronomy at Johns Hopkins, this is a quote, "A fundamental conclusion of the new physics," that's quantum physics, "is that the observer creates the reality." When you get a chance, go online and just Google double slit experiment and start watching some of the YouTubes. It'll drive you nuts. Double slit experiment, really. As observers, we are personally involved with the creation of our own reality. Physicists are being forced to admit that the universe is a mental construction. Pioneering physicist Sir James Jeans wrote, "The stream of knowledge is heading toward a non-mechanical reality. The universe begins to look more and more like a great thought rather than like a great machine." Now that'll blow your mind. Mind no longer appears to be an accidental intruder into the realm of matter. We ought rather hail it as the creator and governor of the realm of matter. Get over it, he says, and accept the inarguable conclusion. The universe is immaterial, but mental and spiritual. Now these are PhDs, the two quotes I read are from PhD physicists, one at Harvard and one at Johns Hopkins. Eugene Wigner is a Nobel Prize winner and one of the leading physicists of the 20th century. He said, "It will remain remarkable in whatever way our future concepts may develop, that the very study of the external world led to the scientific conclusion that the content of the consciousness is the ultimate universal reality." And further, he said that the laws of quantum mechanics itself cannot be formulated without recourse to the concept of consciousness. Again, the double slit experiment, you gotta take a look at it. Let me leave the theories of quantum physics behind for a moment and talk about the size of the universe. And to do so, I will use two short stories. Let me call the first one The Old Man on the Porch. There's an old guy sitting on a porch in front of a lake, minding his business. And a young student walks by and says, "Hey, old man, how old do you think that lake is?" The old man looks down from the porch and says, 7,002 years, 3 months, and 4 days. And the student says, "What's that?" And the old man says, "Wow, didn't you hear me? I said 7 million years, 2 months, 2 years, 3 months, and 4 days. "Well, how do you know that?" the student says. He says, "Well, geologist was here 2 months, 2 years, 3 months, and 4 days ago, and he told me then it was 7 million years. It's crazy, right? The second story has to do with my experience as a speaker at this congregation. On November 7th of 2010, that's almost 7 years ago, I spoke about what I called the true creation story. the story of the creation of our universe. And at that time, I said that I had learned that scientists had computed our universe, our universe. I want to get into that later. This one, and others. Our universe was 13,772,000,000 years old, the time since the so-called Big Bang. But of course, that was 6 years, 7 months, and 20 days ago. So I guess now the universe is 13,772,000,000 and 6 years, 7 months, and 20 days old. Does that make sense? Of course not. The fallacy contained in both of these stories is that when dealing with such large numbers, such as the age of the universe, small numbers, such as the period of time between my talks here, are of no consequences. Some people may say my talks are of no consequences either, but that's another topic. The small numbers are overshadowed by the magnitude of the larger numbers. The small numbers become insignificant and should be ignored. That lake is still 7 million years old. The Earth is still 13,772,000,000 years old. As science continues to develop its base of knowledge and its theories about cosmology and geometry of the universe, quantum mechanics, the relationship among matter, energy, time, space, and gravity, we human beings and our planet do appear to be getting relatively smaller and smaller, less and less significant, overshadowed by the complexity and grandeur of it all, swallowed up by the immensity of all else there is. Maybe we are irrelevant, unimportant. Maybe we should be ignored. Maybe we really do not matter. The Earth itself is estimated to be 4.54 billion years old, but we human beings, or what could be better called human-like beings, made our appearance only 200,000 years ago. Again, a very small period, less than 1/1000% of the edge of the Earth. I once asked an old friend of mine, a Christian theologist, a Lutheran minister, why God waited 13,772,000,000 years to introduce humans to planet Earth. His response was, God is infinitely patient. It's absolutely true. So I said, well then, if the human race were to destroy itself, as it seems hell-bent on doing, the universe would continue to exist, wouldn't it? So for what purpose, I asked. He responded, God won't let that happen. So I hope he's right, although it doesn't seem that way as the way things are going right now. But knowing, or shall I say estimating, the age of the universe is but one bit of relatively recent science that seems to make humanity somewhat less significant than our ego would otherwise allow. Consider the following as I make an attempt to make you feel even smaller and even more insignificant as I can. Stop laughing. The universe, as large as it is expanding and has been doing so since the Big Bang. In fact, it's accelerating. Number two, not only does the Earth not form the center of our universe, but neither does our sun, or even our galaxy, the Milky Way. Rather, there's nothing at all special or unique about where we are. Our universe is isotropic, which means it's the same everywhere. No matter which way you look, take a piece out of the space in any direction, it's all the same. As a matter of fact, there's no place in the universe that could even be identified as the starting point of the Big Bang. Someone said, imagine the Earth like being a raisin in a loaf of raisin bread as it's baking. It's all getting bigger and bigger, but the raisin's kind of there, but everything around is moving out, you know? So let's look at the, so here we are on this inconspicuous, unremarkable grain of sand lost in an infinite number of Sahara deserts. And that's about what it is. Are you still feeling like we really matter? It's a bummer. It's a bummer, isn't it? You can stop right there, everybody go home depressed. Let's look at the stuff that makes up our universe. It's called matter, energy, reflecting Einstein's equation. Remember that E equals mc squared. If you're watching Genius on, what's that, Nat Geo, oh God, great. Ordinary matter, the stuff we see which composes our grain of sand, as well as most everything we can see in the universe, is believed to account only about 4% of the makeup of the universe. About 25% of our universe is composed of dark matter, which is just what it sounds like. Can't see it. The remaining 70% is dark energy that occupies most of what we thought was empty space. So the thing is that the dark matter is holding the galaxies together, and the dark energy is forcing them apart, and they're in that fine balance, and that's basically the way the universe seems to be working. The number of stars. Now remember, our sun is a star. The number of stars is almost beyond comprehension. I used the term zillion. I always liked that. Zillion was a big number when I was a kid. But the number of stars is 1 with 23 zeros after it. Can you imagine that? That's in this universe, as opposed to others. And our own sun is what we call a main sequence star, meaning that it's no big deal. It's a common star, not particularly interesting among the other stars in the universe. We can't even get a unique star to light our Earth. Scientific measurements are getting so large, this is true, that dimensions no longer matter. They don't even bother to put units on things anymore. Infinity divided by 2 is still infinity. Infinity times infinity is still infinity. 1/2 of infinity is still infinity. Finally, and this is the fun part with quantum physics. Theories abound, Paul, I know you're interested in this. Theories abound regarding the existence of more universes, perhaps an infinite number of universes, according to the theory of eternal chaotic inflation, proposed by Andre Lid, the professor of physics at Stanford University. And that's respected. This is not some crazy guy. This is a respected theory. How about the theory of fecundity? But you never heard of that one. That's from the Harvard professor Robert Nozick, which states that everything that could happen has happened, and each one creates a new universe. That means if you're walking down the steps and you trip, that's one universe. But if you catch yourself and you don't trip, that's another universe, and they're both continuing on their merry way. We're making more universes all the time. Duh. You know? Drives you crazy. Everything that can possibly exist does exist somewhere. So, here we sit here today. Are you still feeling important? Do we matter? When viewing mankind alongside the grandeur, enormity, inconceivable immensity, mystery, and complexity of the universe, are we really important or significant? Excuse me. Could you get that for me? I'm so clumsy nowadays, if I attempted to step off that thing, I'd probably fall. So are we really significant or important? Do we matter? Let me ask you the same question, but in reverse. If humanity did not exist, would the universe matter? Right? It's a good way to look at it. Or would it just be energy and particles flying about in space, no particular purpose or goal, no conception of its own magnificence, no self-realization, no wonder, no beauty, nothing. In keeping with quantum theory, would the fact that we no longer observe the universe, would that change its reality? The answer, I think, that it is our existence, our human intelligence, on this small little planet we call Earth, in the middle of nowhere, literally, that gives substance and meaning to the entire universe. And in turn gives meaning to our own existence. There is no intrinsic wonder in the universe. But as scientists search, discover, and create, and as philosophy and physics collide and force us to ponder the nature of reality and existence in a new way, every human being absorbs the life-giving energy of the sun and ponders the movements and twinkling of the stars at night. The universe takes shape and dreams unfold. Each human being on earth, each stargazer, each poet, each wanderer brings the universe alive and gives it materiality. So, the question arises, with all that power, all that responsibility, so to speak, why do we waste our precious intellect hating each other? Why are there 65 million people classified as refugees? Why do we make war? Why do some of us live in Park Avenue apartments when 1 out of 8 of us in the U.S. lives below the poverty line? And that's the federal poverty line. If you read, I think it's like $24,750 a year. I mean, poverty is rampant in this country. Except if you open up the first page of the New York Times and you see these apartments, it's just ridiculous. How can all that be when each of us looking at the heavens adds that additional spark of wonder, of awe, of meaning? We create beauty simply by looking at it. Why do we make our universe smaller? By pretending that all that matters is that which is near to us, rather than viewing each human being as a living part of the cosmos. Why do we ignore the power of human consciousness to change reality for the better? Perhaps that is our meaning and our purpose, to discover, to understand, to imagine, to fantasize, to bring life to the universe, and in doing so, to love one another and Mother Earth. I said here on previous occasions when I talked about love or truth, I think I said the same thing about both, that they constitute the ultimate reality. So, is there a God? Well, we can speculate and debate whether all of this was brought about by a first cause, a master architect, a God, an intelligence beyond our comprehension, one whom we can never really to fully expect to understand. The Big Bang Theory, widely now accepted by science, although changing somewhat, tells us that the universe was created spontaneously from an infinitesimally small, infinitely hot, infinitely dense something. Literally like that big. A singularity. A wrinkle in Einstein's space-time continuum. Where did it come from? And why did it expand into a universe? We don't know. Did God do it? Is our collective consciousness responsible? Was creation a supernatural experience or just a natural experience? Scientists argue that the universe was created from nothing. Some of them do. It was true creation, bringing something into existence that did not exist before: space, time, energy, matter, gravitation. Maybe Genesis chapter 1 is correct. God created the heavens and earth out of the void. Nothing. So does all this science reveal to you that there is a God? And if there is that God likely to answer your prayer? We talked about prayer 4 weeks ago when I spoke here. Is that God likely to answer your prayer that you hit the lottery? Or that the Phillies have a championship season? Or that your cancer is cured? Perhaps it's really not important if there is an identifiable creator or not. Because if there was such an entity who would create this fantastic universe, that entity would be far beyond our comprehension, since we could barely understand what it created. Whether you believe or don't believe is irrelevant, unless, of course, you somehow perceive that this entity, outside of all reason, this God, communicates with you personally, on a personal basis. There are 1 billion Earth cousins in our own galaxy. That means planets kind of like ours. 1 billion in our galaxy, not the universe, in our galaxy. And in our universe, there are at least 1 billion Earth-like planets. I find myself saying, holy cow, wow, all the time. And yet we have not uncovered one sign, not one indication of another Goldilocks planet where conditions are just right for intelligent life. Not one small signal that there has been anything approaching intelligent communications. Now, we've been doing that for, I guess, a century, ever since we had radios. We've been broadcasting things, sending out radio waves, you know. That's what we do. They're all out there in space, bouncing around. Who knows what happened to them? But they're out there. You can listen to the old adventures of Superman if you're on Mars, you know. But they're all out there. But we haven't gotten anything this way. Nothing. Perhaps it's not because we haven't searched hard enough. It may be because organic, intelligent life, by its own nature, is doomed to destroy itself. As Stephen Hawking said, the theoretical physicist and cosmologist, he said, if we are the only intelligent beings in the universe, we should make sure we survive and continue. So therein lies our moral responsibility to continue our journey of discovery and our search for truth, to take care of one another, to protect this planet, to seek peace, to practice love and compassion, and by taking care of ourselves, ensuring that this universe continues to have meaning. Amen.